Hello, 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 everyone, and thank you for joining me today. I hope everyone is doing well. Hope everyone is having a fantastic. What day is it? What day is it? It was a fantastic Thursday morning. Fantastic. I hope everyone is doing awesome this morning, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. But right now, welcome to another episode of Nonsense in the Morning. I have some interesting news today. Interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. Now, I don't actually plan, believe it or not, to cover Star Wars every day, but the Star Wars people have been going crazy. It seems they've been going absolutely nuts with all of the Star Wars stuff. Uh, they're trying to do damage control. I guess they're trying to really fix the things that they messed up on, and now they're just trying to seem to be trying to eat each other. It's really strange. It's really strange. Now check this out. Let's go ahead and get this up here. Yeah, because if you didn't watch, if you have not seen the last two episodes of Nonsense in the Morning, then let me catch you up real quick. Let me catch you up real quick. Because here's the thing: Emperor Palpatine, that came out Star Wars, says that Emperor Palpatine in the Rise of Skywalker is actually a clone of Palpatine. He's not actually the guy who was thrown down a unlimited shaft by Darth Vader in the Return of the Jedi. Although it is his spirit, it's not his actual body. And the excuse here is that that particular Palpatine, his spirit actually seemed to have traveled through space and time to go to a place where he apparently had vats and vats of clones waiting, and his spirit went into a clone. But he was so powerful, he was so evil, and he was so, well, Emperor Palpatine, that the clone actually couldn't sustain him. And also, of course, in the movie, it was revealed that Rey is Palpatine's granddaughter, and that we never actually got to see who her parents were. And that's really strange, because you would think that the son or daughter of someone like the Emperor of the Galaxy would be somewhat important. People would want to know who they were, what they did, and what happened to them. Why did they eventually leave Palpatine? Why did they backstab him? Why did they want to save Rey from him? That sort of thing. And we never got those questions because the Rise of Skywalker is not really into explaining things, unfortunately. So I guess one of the things they're trying to do now is trying to plug up all the plot holes. And it seems, first of all, they came out with Emperor Palpatine as a clone. At least the one from Rise of Skywalker is a clone, and Rise of Skywalker, Rey is his granddaughter. So who is Rey's dad? Well, let's see. They actually came out with an explanation today, or so it seems. It's I wouldn't say it's a good explanation or a reasonable explanation. It's getting kind of crazy now. Their damage control is getting more or less out of hand, and maybe you agree with me, maybe you disagree. But we'll check it out. We'll check it out all the same. Let's see. Let's see. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. If you can see here, Star Wars confirms Rey's father is a failed Palpatine clone. Not a just a normal Palpatine clone, but her father was a failed Palpatine clone. That's really interesting considering Rey is a Mary Sue and therefore a perfect person. She's prodigious, or a prodigy. She is the ideal Ubermensch of a character. Thank you, Disney. Oh, Star Wars: This Rise of Skywalker novelization. Back to novelization. That novelization is trying to tie up all these ludicrous plot holes and trying to fix all the horrific and terrible things that the Last Jedi and the Force Awakens and the Rise of Skywalker had put forth as canon. So Rey is not only the granddaughter of the Emperor Palpatine, she is the daughter of a failed clone of Palpatine. Somehow, let's dive into this real quick. Let's dive into this. The Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, the novelization reveals Rey's father was actually a failed Emperor Palpatine clone the Sith Eternal built. They built so I guess the Sith Eternal is the cult that you see in the movie. If you see in the Rise of Skywalker, uh, officially canonically, Emperor Palpatine managed to put together a cult of the Sith, and the cultists are the people filling up the bleachers in that little coliseum thing. And that's the cult. That's what I'm thinking they're talking about when they say Sith Eternal. So the Star Wars, the Rise of Skywalker novelization reveals Rey's father is actually a failed Palpatine clone. If he's a failed Palpatine clone, how is he walking around and stuff? Don't failed clones die or are disposed of or aren't able to. Because to me, a failed clone is you clone him and they begin to melt or something. That's why he's failed. If a clone can actually run around and have children and be a normal person, I wouldn't really consider them failed. One of the biggest and most controversial reveals in the film is that Rey is the Emperor's granddaughter, descending from ultimate evil. While Rise of Skywalker director J.J. Abrams and co writer Chris Terrio have done their best to explain why the plot twist is compelling, some viewers took issue with how it seemingly retconned The Last Jedi's stance that Rey came from nowhere. That's a good part. Anything that spits on The Last Jedi, I'm okay with, and that's one of the reasons why I wouldn't say The Rise of Skywalker is a good movie, but I could actually enjoy the Rise of Skywalker a little bit, and that's especially why I like that movie way better than Last Jedi, because Rise of Skywalker spits on the Last Jedi, and anything that spits on the Last Jedi can't be all bad. Criminal Imagination, thanks for the 5. Uh, that sinking feeling when you have to tell someone, please stop explaining. You're making things worse. Exactly. And that's a really bad sign if J.J. Abrams and all the writers, including Rian Johnson, had to spend every waking moment outside of the movie trying to explain the movie and trying to cover up for plot holes they shot into the movie. Not a good sign. Not a good sign. It's almost as bad a sign as having continuous reshoots done all the way up until release. Not a good sign at all. As a retcon the Last Jedi stance that Rey came from nowhere. Good, good. I'm glad it spit on the Last Jedi. Last Jedi deserves to be spat upon at every single moment of the day, at every opportunity from everyone. And her parents were nobodies. They're not anymore. That was one of the major defenses, by the way, as to why the Last Jedi was actually good. Was that hey, Luke was special because his father was Darth Vader. It was brilliant that Rian Johnson made Rey come from nowhere, even though it made no sense within the context of Star Wars, that she would be this powerful and come from nowhere. That was apparently brilliant. So bravo, Rian Johnson. Thank you for being so brilliant. You killed Star Wars. The Rise of Skywalker tries to, from a certain point of view, its way around this, and it didn't work for everyone. I'm pretty sure it didn't work for anyone. Besides, arguably clashing with the themes and developments of Last Jedi, which is good. If you are going to have any modicum of hope of having a successful movie, you should always forget about the Last Jedi, unless you're using it for reference, of course, on what not to do. Rey Palpatine obviously had huge implications within the larger Star Wars canon. At the time of the Rise of Skywalker's release, the information presented made it appear as if Palpatine had been intimate with an unknown woman giving birth to a son. For the past few months, fans have speculated who Rey's grandmother could be, and now it's been confirmed she did not have one. Now, hold on, what? Okay, I get her being the daughter or whatever. That I understand, sort of. Even though it doesn't make any sense that she would be the daughter of a failed clone. But what? How did the clone birth her? Is he a sponge? Did Rey just bud from his body? And there were two people in that spaceship, so that's a really strange thing to say. But it's now been confirmed that she does not have one. Let's see why Star Wars fans have forgiven George Lucas. Well, that's interesting. I know why, though. I know why. I think everyone knows why. Because, of course, the sequel movies are so utterly terrible that we now realize how good we had it with George Lucas. So that's the one good thing that they have done. That's the one good thing Disney sequels have done is to make us realize how green the grass was. How green the grass was with George Lucas. Let's see here. Let's see here. Okay, so during the scene in the Rise of Skywalker, the novelization, when Rey is fading, taking part in the Sith ritual in Exegol to trick Palpatine, right before she passes the lightsaber to Ben, she has visions of her grandfather's past. The passage in the book reveals her Return of the Jedi. Reveals after the passage in the book reveals after the Return of the Jedi. Palpatine thrust his consciousness into a clone body. He thrust his consciousness. Okay. However, the transfer was imperfect, and members of the Sith Eternal worked tirelessly to engineer a new vessel for Palpatine's essence. Where was he keeping this cult this whole time? Is this where Palpatine hung out on this nice, fancy, spiky throne when he wasn't on the Death Star? Is this where he was traveling from to the Death Star? You would think he was living on Coruscant in his office, the office of the Emperor. So where did this come from? Is this what his vacation home? One of these attempts to describe as a useless, powerless failure, who was a not quite identical clone. While this body wasn't fit to house Palpatine's power, it was still able to live and eventually became Rey's father. So not really a failed clone, just one that didn't have power. Okay. Back in January, Rise of Skywalker editor Marion Brandon revealed they cut additional Palpatine backstory in effort to condense the film. You would think that you would want to have some Emperor Palpatine backstory in a movie that mysteriously brings him back. I think if you were to cut anything, it was not this. Cut something else. You could cut out the Knights of Ren. They had nothing to do with the movie. They were just in there to look cool. Something. Okay, it was bad enough that you introduced Palpatine's return in the title crawl, and then didn't address it. Now you had important, crucial facts filmed for the movie, and decided to say, nope, we don't need to add that in there. Fantastic. You're the editor. You should probably be fired. It's not a very good idea, editor, to edit out something that's essential to the movie. And it's possible this information is what she was referring to. Brandon had mentioned that initially the movie got more in depth into what was keeping Palpatine alive, and it's been confirmed. The Rise of Skywalker script had included a line about Palpatine being a clone. It's not understandable why the Rise of Skywalker creative team would want to keep these things moving and economically find a way around the topic of Palpatine's return. A case can be made. It would have been good to include some of it in the film. It may have cleared up questions. Oh, it would have. It wouldn't have been all that satisfying, but it would have done something. It may have cleared up some questions some people had. Palpatine's role in the Rise of Skywalker received criticism in some circles, more for coming across as sudden and tacked on within the context of the sequel trilogy. Sudden and tacked on within the context of the sequel trilogy. His past between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens could have been fleshed out. Oh, you don't say. You don't say. It'll be interesting in the future, in any future canon materials, explore more of Rey's father's story. What's fascinating is that even though Palpatine was extremely disappointed in his not quite identical clone, and the body couldn't serve the purpose for which it was built, Rey's dad was able to leave Exegol and lead a life. One might have expected Palpatine to order the clone to be destroyed. So there could be more here. Palpatine, perhaps he envisioned his failed clone fathering a child who could assume the Sith throne. Palpatine was always thinking ahead with his master plans, so that wouldn't be out of the question. Interesting, interesting stuff. So Rey is this ubermensch of a character. She's really perfect, and she can instantly and without effort just, you know, do anything she wants to. Force powers, whatever. And they're telling me she's the daughter of a failed clone. So it was not bad. It was bad enough that they tried to use the excuse that she was powerful and that this was that all of her ludicrous powers and talents and things came from Palpatine because she's the granddaughter of Palpatine. It becomes even crazier when the excuse has now become she could do all of this because she was the daughter of a failed clone of Palpatine. So she really has no blood connection to Palpatine. She has a genetic connection, but she wasn't from the direct bloodline. She came from a clone. And they didn't even answer that the fact that they pointed out that she had no granddaughter, so she had no grandmother. I guess they did. She had a mother, but it's no grandmother. Okay, interesting stuff. I guess they even found the idea of Emperor Palpatine having a wife or something to be too creepy. But this new Disney Star Wars stuff, it's just way out of control. Just as long as you keep hold tight to all the good stuff that's Star Wars and just pretend all of this stuff isn't canon, you can have a good time watching it crash around Disney because then no one else gets hurt. At least no one else that matters. So all the people who just worship the Last Jedi absolutely have gone insane because the Rise of Skywalker really spat on the Last Jedi and spat on everything that they love about the Last Jedi, which is good because the Last Jedi is terrible. It did a lot of terrible things, and should be, I think it is, and should be held up as a movie to watch only if you want to learn how not to do things. Excellent stuff. Excellent stuff. Let's see here. Let's see. We're not done yet. Not done yet, chat. Not done yet. Star Wars stuff keeps rolling on in. So let's get to the next thing. If you weren't here yesterday, I covered the introduction of the High Republic, which is Disney Star Wars' new project. It seems that they found this new ripe way, this new vulnerable, fleshy exterior of Star Wars that they hadn't seen before. They thought they had to fight their way in the hard way by going in through the original trilogy. But they found this nice, vulnerable, fleshy part of Star Wars that they can infect. And they can it's unguarded. And they can just make their plans here. They can build up a nice nice viral infection in this vulnerable area of Star Wars, and just continue from there. So let's see. Yeah, we'll do this. We'll do this first. The High Republic, essential next step for the Star Wars franchise, and they try to, of course, CBR is the land of soy and honey, but this is they're trying to make it sound better than it is, because if anyone has seen the actual trailer for the Star Wars The High Republic, it's not good. It's not looking good. They have on the storyboard, we want things like diversity. They have diversity twice on there. They have a lot of ludicrous things like humor and feelings. These people don't know what feelings are, so they're trying to put it in there to pretend they're human or something. I don't know. And then they have dinosaurs. I guess they brought in their dysfunctioning cousin in from whatever care home he's from, so they could say they had a mentally disabled person come in and work on the script. And they brought him in and to shout dinosaurs, and they took him away. So they're going to have dinosaurs in here for some reason, and it's going to be a whole mess. This is their they found a vulnerable part of the Star Wars franchise, and now they can just do whatever. They're not no longer held back by the Skywalker saga, as they'll go into here. If viruses had news, I'm pretty sure CBR would be what it's called. So let's see here. Star Wars: The High Republic is an essential next step for the franchise. Let's see here. The Fandalorian, they literally had the words "actual ending." Yes, they did. They had the words "actual ending" on their storyboards there. Uh, Not looking good. Of course, you're going to have an actual ending, but why they had that on there is suspicious because they had the words "actual ending." So what are they going to do? Just actually end something great? Because this is what they're trying to do. They've ruined everything else of Star Wars. And this High Republic, Old Republic era is the only good Star Wars left, and they're trying to ruin that area too. So let's see here. Lucasfilm recently announced Star Wars: The High Republic, a publishing initiative bringing stories set 200 years before the events of the Skywalker saga to novels and comic books. While this new direction for the Star Wars universe may not seem like a huge deal for some fans, the High Republic could very well prove key to the next stage of the franchise's life. Considering the franchise is on life support, I hope so. The community frames a pause. Thanks for the 5. Hi Satan. The Sith the Sith inseminate from a distance, as shown in episode 3 during the Darth Plagueis legend. Is that true? That's actually Anakin and Palpatine inside a womb. Oh, that's going to be messy. And if that's true, even if it's remotely true, these weirdos are going to eat that right up. These weirdos are just going to eat that right up, and it's going to be fantastic. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be disgusting. But if you have detached yourself from Star Wars and are looking at this from a distance, it's going to be fantastic. It's going to give a lot of critics a whole lot of material for the foreseeable future, because this is promising to be terrible, awful, awful stuff. The High Republic could very well prove to be the next stage of the franchise's life, or what life it has left. Right off the bat, the High Republic brings offers to a world of potential, with creators given free reign to tell new Star Wars stories completely divorced from the Skywalker saga. It seems the future of the franchise could very well lie in the continuity's past. Well, yeah, because you killed everything else. This is the only way you can build up the franchise again, and you're still going to ruin it here too. So good luck with that. An era of relative peace, centuries before such events as the Clone Wars and the rise of the Galactic Empire. In other words, this initiative provides a golden opportunity to do something genuinely different with the Star Wars canon. Yeah, I bet it does. Diversity, 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 diversity. People don't go to this stuff for diversity. People go to this stuff for good, interesting stories, which you have not provided. So I guess that's why you have to fall back on your horribly planned out storyboards and your forced diversity. Very few people, very few what do you call them? POCs, very few people that you actually try to pander to actually like this forced diversity. Because guess what? The people you try to pander to are people too. And they're not going normal people with normal levels of egos who aren't self-obsessed and self-centered as these soy people are. They don't actually go to movies and TV shows looking for characters who look like them. What a terrible concept. Who look like them. Awful, awful stuff. They go to movies, watch TV shows, read books, and read comics for interesting stories and to follow the paths and lives of interesting characters. It's a cute nerd. Thanks for the $4.99. Was this financial? Did they hire bad or incompetent writers because they were trying to keep costs low? Or are they incompetent themselves? Well, if you believe the speculation around Marvel Comics, which Disney owns both Marvel and Star Wars now, so it's feasible. But one of the practices of Marvel Comics has been to bring in a bunch of woke writers who have never had anything under the belt before. They have brand new writers they've seen from Tumblr who are busy writing poetry or fan fiction, and who have just happened to be woke, who happened to be who had the right politics, and they pulled them from Tumblr and Twitter, and gave them Iron Man, I gave him Wolverine or something. And while it seems like well, it's bad on the front that they're rooting the characters, they're rooting legacy characters, but they're actually not paying these people a lot. These people, like, if you ever listen to Diversity in Comics, or AKA your boy Zach, these people are sharing apartments with maybe 10 other people. And this is factual because I've seen it. Tim Doyle, you call him Sandwich Boy because he's so poor. He works in the comic book industry. He's one of these woke people, but he himself is so poor that he had to crowdfund money for a sandwich. Is to give is to give you an idea of where these people are in terms of being paid. So, was this financial? Did they hire bad or incompetent writers because they were trying to keep costs low? That's very likely. It's in the stars because they've done that with Marvel Comics. And while incompetent is, I think, coincidental in this case, because they are bad and they are bad and incompetent. I think they're going for inexperienced writers for the sole purpose of being able to pay them almost nothing, just paying them dirt. Because it's tradition that in the comic book industry, writers are the people who are paid the least or something like that. Writers are not given a lot of deference, believe it or not, in the comic book industry. It's mainly the artist. Even if you listen to Neil Gaiman and his interviews on Sandman, he was given a little bit of money, but the real money went to the artists who worked on Sandman and the people who worked on the covers of Sandman. Neil Gaiman was still paid, but he was not paid very much in comparison to everyone else. He's the guy who wrote it, so if you have that, so yeah, our writers in the comic book industry not very well respected. I wouldn't imagine to be too different here because there's so much more stuff going on than this writing. And what it seems to be another comic book section for the High Republic. Maybe it's this TV show. I'm not really sure. Let's see here. Make no mistake, there have been some truly great pieces of Star Wars media outside the main film trilogies to come out in recent years, but they just weren't woke enough. They didn't have enough disabled Mexicans or something. All right, they didn't have enough of those. They didn't have enough uh, trans black male lesbians or something. Ones that are still set within the confines of the Skywalker Saga's time period. No, they weren't. What about the Knights of the Old Republic? The Clone Wars and Rebels. No, the Clone Wars are good. Rebels, I heard, was terrible. Uh, although I haven't heard much about Rebels, but I heard it wasn't nearly as good as the Clone Wars. Are both fantastic animated series that have helped enrich their respective in-universe time periods. Anthology films, Rogue One. I did not like Rogue One or Solo. I thought Rogue One was awful, except for that one droid thing. I even forgot his name. I can't remember any of the names of the characters except for Jyn Erso. And they really wasted Donnie Yen. I think it's becoming a tradition in Disney Star Wars to get to hire an actor who's really, really awesome, and then just wasting them in the context of the movie. Let's see here. Not only fun in their own right, but also help. Of course, you would think those movies are fun. Of course, Solo. That was not a Han Solo movie. That was a movie about a guy who happened to have the name Han Solo. That was not Han Solo though. But also help give legitimacy to the new canon established in in television shows. There's also Disney Plus's acclaimed live-action series, The Mandalorian, which is actually pretty good. The Mandalorian is actually pretty good. It's the one. It's not woke. It concentrates on character and stories. It could be better. It could be better, but it's actually pretty good. It's worth a watch, I think. An excellent video game series, Star Wars: The Fallen Order, which is really fun because they kind of base it on Dark Souls. It's based on Dark Souls. It has a really interesting story, and they actually have a main character being a redhead. They have a redhead character who is not replaced, although he probably will be if the game is turned into a Netflix movie or something. Then obviously they will replace the redhead because they have to. Still, as great as these projects are, they always have the Skywalker saga looming in the background. They all tell new, unique stories set within the Star Wars universe, but at the end of the day, they still need to make sure they fit in the pre established canon. And there is a lot of canon to consider. Even when the prequel trilogy first debuted in 1999, fans more or less knew how things would play out going in based on the events of the original trilogy. The High Republic completely changed the game in this respect. Oh, it did. Okay. Offering a chance for. I noticed that they didn't. They listed a bunch of things here, including a video game, but they didn't put forth the Knights of the Old Republic. They didn't do that, and I'm pretty sure they took a lot of inspiration from Knights of the Old Republic, but they didn't. They didn't name it here. They did not name it here, and if they did, I'm pretty sure if they did, it would really put a hindrance onto their the little narrative they're trying to spin. 200 years 200 years is a long time after all. This leads into the point of the High Republic not only being new but also different. There is such a huge gap, a huge wage gap between the High Republic era and the Skywalker saga era. At the Star Wars universe, at the Star Wars universe, we will see in the former is not is no doubt completely different than the one we've seen in the latter. The events of the Skywalker saga, from Phantom Menace to the Rise of Skywalker, if you actually hate Star Wars, you include the Rise of Skywalker, take place over a roughly 70-year period. It's a long period of time, to be sure, but still pretty short in the grand scheme of things. The High Republic would instead be looking at the Star Wars universe at a new, less recognizable point in history. So you know what that means, Chad. You know what that means. They're going to be subverting your expectations. That's code for we're going to be subverting your expectations, and probably not in a good way. Let's see here. A new collection of stories in a totally different era in the Star Wars timeline than what's commonly been explored is certainly a great start. A great start. However, what gives the High Republic such an edge is creative control. Lucasfilm explains it is affording each respective book or comics creative team ample room to tell the stories they want. So they're going to have pink hairs and weirdos and strange aliens, not fighting bad guys. It's kind of fighting bad guys on the side. I'm pretty sure they're going to be the main focus of each story is going to be how they came out to their parents or something. They're going to. How much you want to bet, chat? How much you want to bet that they're going to make the Jedi kind of persecuted, or might say kind of oppressed? They might have a lot of power, but the Jedi might be oppressed. I can see the Jedi class, right, being oppressed in the High Republic, more or less by the rest of the people. Maybe the rest of the people don't trust them too much, and they have to earn their trust over 200 years. And then they can turn the stories from good guys, good Jedi fighting bad Jedi, to a Jedi just talking about how they had to come out as Jedi to their parents or something. And they're probably going to add in some genderless aliens, but who I'm not sure what's going to happen. In fact, it might not. But how much you think they want to do this? How much do you think they want to do this? Make Jedi an oppressed class, because in the oppressed class would be really really powerful. That's why they're being oppressed, right? The most powerful people in the galaxy are being oppressed, and then they come in and do all the right thing, or they get revenge on people with all their powers. This is right up their alley. This is what they try to do with Rey. This is what they try to do with Captain Marvel. This is right up the alley of these people. So look out for that, Chad. Look out for that, because that might not happen. Like I said, it might not happen, but I would see this in stars. I would see this in the cards. This is what they're trying to do. That this was something they might end up doing. Let's see. Hex Harper, mom, dad, I identify as a Wookiee. Exactly. And the mom and dad are the bad guys in the situation because they try to beat some sense into their child or something. I don't know. Oh yes. Also, Light Whitney. White men are bad. So, uh, how would you want to bet that the main character is going to be some sort of alien and they're going to be oppressed by humans? That's actually a thing from the Old Republic, that aliens are being oppressed by humans. So, I wouldn't put it past them to eat up any and all, okay, any and all chances to put in their oppressed narrative. They're going to want that. They're definitely going to want that. Okay, let's see here. What else do they have for us? Let's see here. Not only is Lucasfilm creating an initiative that opens the door for new takes on the franchise. Oh, that's it. It's getting worse and worse, chat. It's getting worse and worse by the minute. As they mentioned before. See, I told you this is a nice, fleshy, vulnerable part of the Star Wars franchise where they don't have to fight against so many antibodies. They can just move their way in and they can just do whatever they want and no one else can bring logic to contradict them. Or contradict them. No, they can't bring in logic to counter them, and they can't bring in logic and facts and lore to contradict them, like they could with the Last Jedi, or especially Last Jedi, but anything with the Disney Star Wars uh, sequels. People were all over that with how badly they respected the lore, respected 30 years of lore and continuity. But here, they don't have to mess with any of that. They can put in all their transgender revenge fantasies, and no one can say anything. No one can until they disrespect the Force or something, which they probably will too. They have so much more leeway to ruin Star Wars through the avenue of the High Republic. Mr. Cobblestone, thanks for the two. The Force is. That's a good argument. If everyone, anytime someone comes at you with the Force is female, this respond with, the Force is female. You're a bigot. The Force is obviously they them. Force is obviously an attack helicopter or something. Not only is Lucasfilm creating an initiative, okay, as I mentioned before, it's allowing the creators to completely revel in that opportunity. What has made less traditional Star Wars projects like the Clone Wars, Rebels, Mandalorian, and even the less traditional. Less traditional. That's one way to put that. So good is that. That's not. There's no way to put the Last Jedi. You could say the Last Jedi is less traditional because it is, but good. That's a lie. It's just an outright lie. The visionaries behind them were left to their own devices. So we see that how that turned out for the Last Jedi. Uh, so it worked 3 times out of 4, more or less. So you're going to go with it. Okay, 75% chance. They're saying this. They're trying to tell us a 75% chance this is going to turn out pretty good. I highly doubt it. There's a lot of soy in that room we saw. So good is that the visionaries behind them are left with their own devices. At least to some extent, Disney is always going to have a say, of course. Couple that approach with the High Republic's creators not being bound by parameters of the Skywalker saga, then Lucasfilm could very well have a winning strategy on their hands. They could. They could. If they had competent, experienced writers who aren't obsessed with politics, which this seems to be, judging by all of the, as we'll soon see, chat. We'll soon see in a minute, chat, how the writers are proceeding and how the attitude around the High Republic is already forming. And you might see some similarities between the attitude of the surrounding the High Republic and the attitude that continues to surround the Last Jedi. Hack for life. Thanks for the two. The force is ginger. I'll take that. I'll definitely take that. The force is ginger. That's fine with me. Gingers are cool. The force is ginger. I'll definitely take that because they are the gingers are being oppressed by the people who claim they are oppressed. So always stand up for the oppressed people, and gingers are being oppressed by the all these weirdos who say that they are oppressed, that they themselves are oppressed. Let's see here. As fun as the sequels trilogy was, it wasn't that much fun. It was torture, especially the Last Jedi. Felt like having glass rods shoved into your eye sockets and then smashing them up. That's what it felt like with the Last Jedi. As fun as the sequel trilogy was, all things considered, there had been criticism pertaining to the franchise's perceived inability to let go of its past and do something truly different. Kill the past, right? Uh, Kill it if you have to. No, no. Okay, there's no criticism of Star Wars forgetting the past. Star Wars fans want you to remember the past. It's one of the biggest, most important elements of Star Wars, and it's decades long traditions. It's decades long established lore and canon. Okay, real Star Wars fans want you to remember the past. These quote unquote new Star Wars fans, these people who are not Star Wars fans at all, who just enjoy seeing Star Wars burn because they hate it, and who want to inject their poisonous and toxic politics into everything, those are the people who want you to forget Star Wars' past. Because the Star Wars' past is what's keeping them from really getting to it. Because basically the past of Star Wars, the established lore of Star Wars, that's an antibody. Okay, that's the immune system of Star Wars, and they can't hypnotize viewers and readers into liking their politically toxic stuff because this they get so mad, and rightfully so, that the past and the established lore of Star Wars is being continuously disrespected. This is why they had to do it here. They're hoping that in a new, fleshy, vulnerable part of Star Wars franchise, they can build up their audience of woke cultists. Hopefully, that won't work because, or in order to do that, they actually have to know what they're doing in the writing department, and I don't think they do. And see, RES SGD, thanks for the 5. I have already given up on Star Wars. Oh, so have I. So have I. I took a step back, and I'm just laughing at all this nonsense. The damage, the damage have been done by the past three sequels. Exactly. Most particularly, The Last Jedi. That's the movie that really put a bullet into the Star Wars franchise. That was the one that really ruined everything. Because if you take notice, if you take notice of what happened, Star Wars was more or less cruising along it was cruising along all right. It was fine. It was fine. And then The Last Jedi came out, and although that went pretty well, it was so terrible that it completely shattered the confidence of the Star Wars consumer. And that's why you have the failure of the Solo movie happen right afterwards. That's why you have the failure of The Rise of Skywalker happen. So The Last Jedi was the last time the Star Wars fandom trusted Star Wars in the hands of Disney. From then on, it was just a plummet to the bottom. See, the Fandalorian, thanks for the 2. It's not the Force anymore, it's the consent. Yeah, at this point, I really wouldn't put it past them if for them to rename the Force something, because now that's it. Now that it's in the past, maybe they say that, oh, the Force was a term that was recently used. We didn't know what it was back then. So right now it's just called the consent because our Jedi are just walking out and we're asking the universe for consent if we can do this, and the universe says yes to the acquisition of the consent. And that's how the force powers are used. So I wouldn't put it past them. I could see how this could happen. Okay, I could see very well how this could happen, and it's nightmarish. Although at this point, I really hope it does because like I said, and like you said, I've given up on Star Wars. I'm really glad I wasn't a hardcore Star Wars fan. I'm really glad I wasn't, or else this would be even more infuriating than it was. I'm more of a Star Trek fan, which has been more or less getting the same treatment. I've been I've been doing the see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil thing. But things might be on the horizon. We might be having a Star Trek stream with some other YouTubers. It's possible. It's possible. It might be this Sunday. If it happens at all, it might be this Sunday. So if it does, I'll be diving into Picard and see how bad or good that show is. I heard it's really bad though. Uh, so but I could see the High Republic teaching their Jedi main characters. Okay, you have to learn to strengthen your faith in consent. It's the you must ask consent from the universe, and the universe will answer you if it agrees. You know that sort of thing. I could see that easily being what they call the Force in the High Republic, the consent. If any of you didn't know, if anyone have watched Weeb Wars, which is kind of the anime version of the Fandom Menace Comicsgate, it's taking a stand against the part of the mainstream that's been infected by the social justice crowd. Uh, the anti Weebors, the people who are all into consent and you know the NPCs, they wanted to actually put on a convention called ConsentCon. I'm not sure how popular that would be. It sounds really boring. It sounds really lame. But they wanted to do it. I'm not sure if it's going to happen, but that's something they want to put together. It was called ConsentCon. Let's see here, but it's this scary stuff. It's scary how these people think about it 24/7. All they want to do is make you angry, chat. They really hate it when instead of getting angry, you laugh at them. Let's see here. What do we have? What do we have? A winning strategy for Lucasfilms. Now, that's all well and good, but there's also the matter of how the High Republic will prove essential to Star Wars' future. As fun as the sequel trilogy was, all things considered, there have been criticism pertaining to franchise's past, not being able to let go of it. The High Republic is, above all else, the perfect chance for Lucasfilm to refute this. There can still be more familiar stories like The Mandalorian or the upcoming Obi-Wan series, but the High Republic is where Lucasfilm can demonstrate its ability to move on, something that will no doubt prove crucial in the coming years. After all, while the studios say the High Republic does not currently tie into any planned on-screen productions, it seems almost inevitable that a live-action film or television series set in that era will hit screens. So so I'm going to go ahead and guess that yeah, so it's not a television series. It's going to be a comic book series probably. And if it's a comic book series, then it's probably going to be produced by Marvel Comics, using Marvel comic writers. So that super chat from before saying that this is financial, as they're hiring incompetent writers on purpose, that's looking likely. That's looking very likely. That is, if initial initiative goes well. If this initial initiative goes well, okay. And that is precisely why this on-page iteration of the High Republic is so important. This is not about Lucasfilm proving its ability to move on. It's about fans doing the same. We have to move on, chat. We have to move on. You spent 30 years loving Star Wars, but you have to move on. So says Disney. Yeah, all the stuff you love for 30 years, you have to leave it behind you. Because that's the mature thing to do, apparently. No, don't do that, chat. Just keep those true. They want you to forget the good stuff, and they want you to start loving their crap, the absolute disgusting crap that they're going to be pumping out in the near future. If the High Republic and similar stories separate from the Skywalker saga are to take the world by storm, usher in a truly new, unpredictable era for the beloved space opera franchise, it all starts now. I hope it doesn't. I hope it fails. I hope this fails spectacularly. I hope the true fans of Star Wars do not forget Star Wars or what it was, and that to the utter detriment of these weirdos and NPCs, I hope that the past of Star Wars is never forgotten and is held to a high pedestal, put on a high pedestal, and used as a golden standard as to how Star Wars stories and games should be. That's what you should be doing as a Star Wars fan, not forgetting the past, so that their crap can be more easily consumed by you. But it doesn't end there, Chad. It doesn't end there. Okay, it does not end there because there's more. There's always more. There's always more, Chad. There's always more. So let's bring up that more, shall we? And let's take a look. See, make sure I got the right one. Okay. See, here's what we mean by the attitude surrounding the High Republic is pretty much the same attitude that surrounds the Last Jedi. The High Republic, fans angry about diversity in Star Wars can just stay angry. Remember when we pointed out that they had diversity not once but twice on the little storyboard? Well, we weren't the only ones, Chad. We weren't the only ones to not only point this out, but to be cautious of that. To be cautious of it. It's those particular elements have met with such backlash that the CBR, the Land of Soy and Honey, wrote an article wanting to condemn fans who are angry about the very poison that has ruined Star Wars so far. And they got angry at this. So High Republic fans angry about diversity in Star Wars can just stay angry. Star Wars The High Republic has a great deal of potential to open up the galaxy far, far away in new and exciting ways, following the end of the Skywalker saga. While it might be too far off to be excited for what Lucasfilm has to offer across comic books, games, and film, it's undeniable. One small detail has caused an absurd level of controversy among a particular population of fans. Yeah, the real ones. The ones who actually care about Star Wars. That's the population I'm talking about, just to be clear. Roughly a minute into the announcement video, that there's a billboard as showing a brainstorming exercise for the project regarding what the writers are looking to include in the High Republic. Among those items on the board are notes future works should not be pro-war. I don't know why you would put that up there. And they should be diverse. A subset of fans have since screenshot and spread this image decrying the future of Star Wars as dead because of these focuses. It is. It's probably because it is dead. If you're going to march on with the Star Wars franchise with just more woke nonsense, then yeah, it's pretty much dead. You killed it. The controversy. Reaction to the announcement came fast. The moment the screenshot was posted, people started criticizing Disney for ruining Star Wars. Well, they ruined it a long time ago. Rian Johnson helped out a lot with The Last Jedi, but yeah. Many presented the fact Disney listed diversity twice on its billboard as proof Lucasfilm was going to pander exclusively to the theatrical social justice warriors, to the theoretical social justice warriors. What do you mean theoretical? This is gaslighting here. They're not only are they not theoretical, they are the people you've been pandering to. They are the people who are writing these things. You are writing this article. You are a social justice warrior writing this article saying that social justice warriors are theoretical. They fear have overtaken society. Well, they have. They have. They're ruining everything. Others feared that Star Wars being not pro-war went against its very name. The arguments echoed prior criticism of Disney era of Star Wars pushing a woke agenda, which it is, of feminism, like you mean like the Force is female, and racial diversity. Fans have argued for years Rey was a Mary Sue. She is a character who poorly reflected the franchise, which she does. Not only does she not reflect the franchise, she stomps on it with a combat boot. She goes American History X all over the franchise by her very existence. Disney also included a brief same-sex kiss in The Rise of Skywalker, which you actually edited out for China, which led to a backlash and the scene being cut in some countries. Not America, though, because I saw it in America. It was there. You had to cut it out for China. Stars of the series, such as John Boyega and Kelly Marie Tran, were slammed with racist comments on social media. You know who really went after Kelly Marie Tran and John Boyega? Social justice warriors. which even led to the latter taking a hiatus from various platforms. John Boyega got in trouble because he said that Kelly Marie Tran doesn't have the mental capacity or mental fortitude to be on social media. He got in trouble for that, even though it is true. She doesn't. She can't stand social media. She can't stand the backlash. John Boyega however, has been uh, a master troll in trolling the people who try to troll him. Pro war, Star Wars is not pro war. I didn't really have an opinion on war. It was just a movie about a war, hence the name Star Wars. Star Wars is not pro war. The series does feature wars, mostly focus on the devastation they leave behind. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It just focuses on a good guy versus a bad guy. Good guys versus bad guys. It didn't focus on any of that other stuff. You're just reading into that. Instead, Star Wars goes into the devastation of war. No, it doesn't. A New Hope features all around violent destruction. Yeah, it was a plot point. Just ramp up the stakes to show you how powerful the Death Star was, so that we know exactly what the danger is by the end of the movie. That's why, and to show you how evil and how far the Empire is willing to go. It wasn't showing you all this other nonsense that Rian Johnson would want to show you. That was it. It's just a story about a war. These people are crazy. Hope features Alderaa's violent destruction and the Battle of Yavin 4, where soldiers die needlessly one by one until Luke blows up the Death Star. No, you're putting in themes and things that aren't there. You're doing that just so it can sound like Star Wars was anti-war all along. More gaslighting. This is gaslighting the article. Just call this article gaslighting. Empire Strikes Back, Battle of Hoth is a massacre where rebels are shot dead. Okay, we know this. Rebels are shot dead in the snow and their bodies are crushed under AT-ATs. The wars and Star Wars exist not because war itself is good, but because some things like peace or with fighting for it. No, it's good guys versus bad guys. Okay, there's no major themes in here. Not, at least not the ones you're talking about. Major themes were actually more along the lines of building yourself up, going from farm boy to hero, things like that. Things like that. It wasn't a political propaganda piece like you want it to be. So sorry. So sorry to the land of soy and honey. That's not what it was. It just wasn't. Even the prequels were incredibly anti-war. I think the prequels are more anti-corporatism than they were anti-war. Seeing as how every side, be they the Sith, Separatists, Republic, and Jedi, all want peace in some form. Every war that happens is just part of Palpatine's scheme to gain power over the Republic. The only person who wants war is the villain of the entire franchise. A few comments also argued Star Wars going all in on diversity is a problem. It is, because you've seen time and time again that you put diversity before story. And it's really, really strange. You think Asian is a personality. It's not. You think woman is a personality. It's not. You think that a diverse cast is story. Guess what? It isn't. However, now they argue the concept of diversity has been co-opted by feminists, which twist the ideas of diversity in ways that make these fans uncomfortable. That's true. It's not really an argument, it's more like a statement of fact. Star Wars, from its first entry, emphasized that the galaxy was vast and multifaceted. From the scenes of Mos Eisley Cantina to Jabba's palace, yeah, those are aliens, and it's cool. We want to see aliens, and we don't want to. There's no problem seeing other races of humans in the Star Wars franchise. Everyone loved Lando, but the problem is that you focus on that so much, and it's not just here's a diverse character. It's, look, bigots, here's a diverse character, and we're going to shove it in your face so that you get more angry. You could taste the bitterness. Okay, there's a difference between, oh, here's a different tasting cake. Oh, this tastes really good. And, oh, look, here's a different looking cake. Oh, I could taste the bitter tears you have shed into this cake. It tastes disgusting. Not good at all. There's a lot of vitriol, a lot of bitterness that's done in these diversity exercises. A vast array of life forms in the universe, including Wookiees. Yeah, we don't care. We like those because they're not being used as political tools. Why does it stretch people's imagination to see black people? Oh my goodness! Get higher on your high horse. Okay, can you climb any higher on your little pedestal? Thank you. I think you'll be a little bit better. You'll be better off if you climb a little bit higher on that magnificent pedestal that you're standing on, that you put yourself on. What's even more baffling is how the mindset flies in the face of the original intention of Star Wars. Princess Leia was one of the first really great mainstream heroines to appear in the genre. She also wasn't ugly, which is I'm pretty sure makes her they can't make her count. She doesn't count. The only people who can count uh are women with purple hair and with Admiral, what's her name? I'm glad I forgot her name, but okay, Admiral Holdo. Admiral Holdo face. If they have that serious kind of angry, constantly angry Admiral Holdo face, then they can count. But if they're attractive women who are just having to be headstrong and stuff, then they can't count. They hate attractive women. If anything, if Marvel has shown us anything, they prefer women with bodies of men. Subverting tons of stereotypes surrounding the damsels in distress usually found on the film. I like how when they try to argue against fans, then that's when they praise the original trilogy. But when they try to make their own stuff, they demonize the original trilogy. It's they just the original trilogy is an abusive relationship with Disney Star Wars. Okay, the original trilogy is the battered housewife of Disney. They beat their housewife. Disney beats its housewife, aka the original trilogy, on a regular basis. But when they need to look good, that's when they haul out their battered and abused wife, put her in a nice fancy dress, and have her and parade her in front of the fans. Terrible stuff. Oh, 1 second. I'm gonna put this on mute. Okay. So now they're actually saying that this is good. They're saying this is good now. That the original trilogy is all of a sudden a great example of diversity and subverting expectations. It isn't, by the way. First really great mainstream heroines that appear in the genre. People complain that she's the only one. They complain that who the girls have to look up to. All they have is Leia. That's not true. First of all, Star Wars is, sorry to say, but it's true. It's a man's franchise. Okay, it was created by a man with a focus on his interests. So it's geared towards men. But if you ever listen to that Star Wars girl, Anna, that Star Wars girl, when she fell in love with Star Wars because her hero was not really Leia, her hero was Luke Skywalker. Okay, just because the movie has a main character who's a different gender than you does not mean you cannot look up to them. Does not mean you can't grow up to be like them. Okay, heroism is not exclusive to one gender. Okay, just because Leia is the only main character who's female does not mean she's the only main character who girls can look up to if they like Star Wars. Okay, it just doesn't work. It works. It doesn't work the way they say it works. It works differently. But in their mind, people are in categories. In their mind, people only want to go see movies if the main character looks like them, which is an absolute lie. An absolute lie. And see, Lord Pyron, all CBR is doing is proving they know absolutely nothing about Star Wars. Oh yeah, all these people trying to defend the Star Wars sequels, that seems to be what they're doing. That seems to be what they're doing, proving they have no idea what Star Wars is, or they have no idea about anything about Star Wars. There are Star Wars fans who hate diversity. Unfortunately for them, it's going to slow down. It isn't going to slow down anytime soon, and it's always been part of the franchise. It hasn't always been part of the franchise, not the way you're doing it. And if it's not going to slow down anytime soon, then that means that the death spiral of Star Wars is not going to be slowing down anytime soon, and there's no one coming to rescue it. Very unfortunate. Very unfortunate. But That's not it. That's not all. I think that might be all for. Actually, no, that's not all for the Star Wars stuff today. So much Star Wars stuff keeps coming out. So much Star Wars nonsense keeps being pumped out, especially with the revelation of the High Republic. That's not that's it's this is they just keep pumping out nonsense after nonsense after nonsense. It's getting ridiculous, quite frankly. But let's actually finally switch gears a little bit, at least a little bit for a little bit, to something that was really big in anime. Happened fairly. It's kind of old news, maybe a week or so old, but it's just funny. And I mentioned this before, the whole Vic Mignogna Weeb Wars conflict, and this kind of feeds into it. It kind of feeds into it. So let's see. Let's check it out. Get it pulled up here. Make sure it's the right one. And here we go. Here we go. All right. So if anyone doesn't know, there was a Funimation, a company that dubs anime. They had what they were doing was going to do a simul dub, which is essentially they wait for the anime to premiere in Japan, and then within an hour or so they release the episode they released in Japan, but they release the dub version of it, and that's what they call it, simulcast or something like that. It's whatever, something like that. That's the plan. That's what it's called. Uh, they're planning to do this. Funimation recently acquired the rights to dub a a series called Interspecies Reviewers, and they give some nonsensical excuses as to why they canceled it, because they did eventually cancel it, I think, after 1 or 2 episodes, and it was ridiculous. It was crazy because here's what happened. Here's what happened. They released the first episode, and the Twitter Puritans, the NPCs, got mad that this anime was, because they hate anime in particular because it doesn't bow to their sensibilities or outrage. But they really hated this particular series because what Interspecies Reviewers is is that it's an anime series concerning a group of people who go around and test out prostitutes. And this is a world where I guess their red light district is filled with all kinds. It's very diverse. I don't see why they hate it, but it's very diverse, and that's what the whole series is based on. It's based on diversity. So they have like slime girls and cat girls and all manner of women of different species and different fantastical races and stuff like that in this red light district. And but unfortunately, it's really expensive to actually utilize the services of these people. So they don't want to. A lot of people are kind of hesitant, and they don't want to go and lay down a bunch of money. And it turns out they didn't really like the experience. So what these interspecies reviewers do is that they kind of take the hit. They kind of take the hit. They go in and they test out all the different kind of prostitutes in this district, and they review them and they put them up on boards or something for the public to read, so that the public can say, "Oh, okay." I guess kind of like that the food reviewers site, uh, a Yelp. It's kind of like a Yelp review, but they go in and they test out all the prostitutes, and they review the prostitutes and the species. It's not actually hentai. It's not hentai. It's like I guess it's like softcore or something. And that so they released the first episode, and of course this has an outcry. It's an outrage of social justice Puritans coming out and saying this is sexist, this is evil, this is racist, or whatever, with the usual diatribe. And so Funimation, being a haven for social justice warriors, immediately cancels the show. They cancel it, saying that this is not fit with our normal standard of behavior or whatever, which is absolute nonsense because not only did they acquire the show, they dubbed it. They dubbed it. They knew what it was about. They knew what the show was about. They knew what they were doing. And Funimation actually has some pretty risque titles under the belt. They just backed off of this one because it had outrage. But if you didn't know, the funny thing about this is that Monica Rial, the person who would try to cancel Vic Mignogna for allegedly touching people's hair and specifically throwing a jelly bean at, or specifically eating a jelly bean with a name on it and calling it rape, was supposed to be in this pretty risque show as an elf prostitute. uh, let's see here. The board enthusiast, did you see the hilariously low rating Funimation has on their app? I did not see that, but they kind of deserve it at this point. Because amidst the Vic Mignogna stuff, they have been pulling some pretty shady practices. One of them being not allowing people to unsubscribe from them. So there was a time, I'm not sure if they fixed this already or not, but there was a time when Funimation wouldn't allow you to stop paying them. They wouldn't allow you to unsubscribe from the service because they knew there was going to be mass unsubscriptions because of the Vic Mignogna thing. Because people love Vic Mignogna, they hate Funimation, and they hate Monica Rial. As should be, as they should, because Monica Rial is trash. She spent 20 years pretending to be friends with someone until she found a opportunity to stab in the back and to pretty much kill his career so that she could rise to the top. Nexus 906, thanks for the 2. The word you're looking for is ecchi. Okay. Oh, yeah, I forgot that even existed. Okay, so, yeah. Ecchi, I'm pretty sure, is that the anime term for, I guess, a lot of... Is there a big difference between a regular anime show and an ecchi? Because doesn't this ecchi mean that they have a lot more fan service? I mean, even regular anime shows have a lot of fan service in them. So how different is it? Is it just a lot more? Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. Okay. I'm a noob when it comes to anime, okay? You just have to bear with me. I'm an anime novice. Okay. But here's why they say reviewers got canceled by Tokyo MX. For those who have not heard about a bit of ongoing anime drama, you better sit down. It is time you met a rather interesting series called Interspecies Reviewers and its latest tale of woe. Over the week or so, the niche anime found itself dropped by a slew of big name distributors because these big name distributors, they know nothing, they saw nothing, they know nothing. Okay, they spoke nothing, they heard nothing. They just thought, we just thought Interspecies Reviewers was a wholesome Christian series. We had no idea why we were having our actors spew out erotic moans in the studio, that this was going to be in any way risque. I mean, we're so sorry. We apologize. And its cancellation has been pinned on a reason no one expected. Of course, we do not back it up. We do not need to back up a bit. We do need to back up a bit. The whole ordeal surrounding the ecchi. Okay, there it is. Ecchi has anime been hard to keep up with. Situation arose a while ago with Funimation, when Funimation did confirm it would air interspecies reviewers. Many were shocked at the time, given the anime's lewd undertones. But they were glad to see Funimation expand their catalog. That all changed in the last week or so, after airing a few episodes. Funimation confirmed it would no longer stream interspecies reviewers as the show's content did not mesh with its catalog. That's a lie. It's an absolute lie. Go on Funimation. Go on Funimation right now. Okay, there's some pretty lewd titles under the belt. Okay, there's some stuff that's actually focused on that stuff. Alex Halo, thanks for the 2, and picked up by more channels. Oh, was it picked up? I know and a lot of anime fans kind of went to war over this thing, and they kind of I know some of them surged to my anime list to make interspecies reviewers have a wonderfully high rating. I think they made it the most highly rated anime of all time. And my anime list got really, really angry at them. But in the essence of fighting censorship, I'm hoping it gets picked up by other channels. That's fantastic. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. It has since been taken down by the Not Safe for Work anime, and it was joined shortly by Amazon Prime. The Ecchi series is also missing from the latter's site, and fans overseas were vocal with their with their discontent. Now the issue has come all the way to Japan. It turns out the show's network has decided to cancel interspecies reviewers. Well, that's not good. The Twitter Puritans have affected Japan at last, it seems. They have infected the people who have until now not bent the knee and have until now laughed in their faces. Tokyo MX has chosen to give the show's airtime another program, leaving interspecies reviewers with an uncertain network situation as several others Japan currently air the show. So I'm guessing it got picked up by several other shows, several other channels. That's what you meant. And however, I'm pretty sure maybe I'm thinking the reason why they kind of because Japan is all about making money. So I'm guessing the reason why they would drop the show at all is because they saw how badly it was doing in America, and they say, "Oh, it's not doing well in America. It's probably not worth putting more effort into." And I'm hopefully it's not because they're bowing down to Twitter Puritans. That'd be ridiculous. Now, a new report is opening up about Tokyo MX and its reason for ending the broadcast. According to Japanese fan site Otaku JP, the anime was discontinued because of the program management of the TV station. Okay. The message means Interspecies Reviewers was not canceled because of its content, but its network's mismanagement. Now fans are left to wonder whether or not the explainer covers the entire truth behind the show's cancellation. What do you make of the ongoing controversy? Let me know in the comments or hit me up on Twitter. Okay. How to watch Castlevania. Is it Castlevania Season 3? I had no idea. Is it out already? Castlevania is actually a really good show to watch. Castlevania is fantastic. The one on Netflix, anyway. That was really fun. A lot of fun. No woke bone in his body. Not a single one. But here we go. I think what we're going to do next is just to give you a little rundown because, like I said, I'm an anime newbie. So what I'm going to do is we're going to watch a video by an anime veteran, your boy, Yellow Flash, as he covered this. Let's see here. Where is it? I think it's this. Here we go. Yeah, your boy Yellow Flash, as he covered the situation of interspecies reviewers getting canceled. So, here we go. We're not gonna watch the whole thing. Just want to give a quick rundown.
Our time has come. For 300 years.
Not a very trustworthy company. I've done that. They were trying.
Cradle of power.
So Funimation is at it again, doing some shady stuff. I guess they did something recently with an anime that they were trying to say was uncensored, and then somebody busted them because they were selling the censored version and lying once again. Not a very trustworthy company. I've done a lot of videos on Funimation on how they treat their employees. There's a bunch of Glassdoor reviews that I went over a long time ago showing that pretty much they're a nasty company to work for. And they're also a nasty company.
See, that's what I mean. Funimation is a very shady company, very, very nasty. It's a nasty place. Nasty place. They have some shady practices. They have some very shady organization there. There's rumors of the casting couch run by Sabat, the guy who voices Vegeta and Dragon Ball Z, where there was some favors done for other favors, some Weinstein type shenanigans going on. Alex Halo, thanks for the 5. The Japanese YouTube channel for the company has been telling people to not to miss the next episode in English in their comments. Well, that's interesting. This is not anime I probably would consider watching, but I'm really hoping it gets more traction because of how badly people want it censored. I just wanted, if they want it censored, I want it out there more. That's good. The Japanese channel for the company has been telling people not to miss the next episode in English. That's good stuff. It means it's going on strong. It means that no one is not, at least not everyone is bending the knee anytime soon. So that's good stuff. It's a good sign. Really good sign.
Money to consumers. Anyone that's been involved in the whole VIC thing knows just what a shady company this is. But this is a little bit of a different story because they actually picked up a very adult anime, started to dub it, and then decided they were just going to sweep it under the rug. We can get into why in a second, but the name of this anime is Interspecies Reviewers. At least that's the translated title. And let me go ahead and read you the plot for this.
Hold on one second. I see here. It's back up there. DJM Voices, thank you very much for the 10. I love how they call us names for saying X franchise has gotten bad, so fix it. But they'll demand a project be canceled if it doesn't agree with them. Exactly. And if they like the only time they don't want a franchise canceled is if it's popular. If it's not popular, if it hasn't gained a powerful traction in the cornerstone of someone's society like Star Wars has, they want it canceled. And if it has, they want to infect it, and they want to say, "Here's what's wrong. Star Wars is wrong." And the most iconic phrase of theirs is "Fix this now, fix this now," and they'll make up some imaginary problems that sound like big deals but aren't, and they'll say, "Fix this now." But yeah, that's usually the strategy. It's ridiculous. People are. You ever listen to Diversity in Comics? I keep bringing him up because he's very insightful and all this stuff. But he keeps bringing up the fact that he was a veteran in the. I think he was a Marine. He's a Marine veteran. He served the country. He fought actual terrorists. And he said these NPCs, are worse examples of humanity than actual terrorists. And he meant that seriously. And he's a guy who actually fought these guys, who actually fought terrorists. And these people are worse human beings than terrorists. Criminal Imagination, thank you very much for the 10. Sometimes the American divisions, funny, will lie to the Japanese for agenda reasons. Oh, I didn't know they did that. I'm not surprised, but I didn't actually know they did that. To prevent NA viewers from getting everything they want. NIS does this a lot. Crunchyroll is really bad. Crunchyroll is like the Raid Shadow Legends of streaming services. Like if you go to any YouTube channel that even remotely covers anime, they will be pimping out Crunchyroll. That's disappointing. Really disappointing. That's not good. But I had no idea they did that. That's really interesting. Thanks for letting me know. That's really interesting. Artist Kill the God. Welcome, Saudi Prince. Hey, Artist Kill the God, by the way. If you look at the update in the last Dr. Alpha update, your character's in there. Just want to let you know. And he's the one that looks like a Power Ranger. Your character is in there. So if you want to check it out, look in the last update. I released 5 brand new penciled pages of Dr. Alpha yesterday. And your character is in there. So you want to check that out. Thanks again for your support, Artist Kill the God. Let's see here. And Alex Halo, thanks for the 5. The channel it was removed from are mostly used to advertising the uncensored version on the more expensive channel. Oh, okay. That's interesting. So it was removed from are mostly used to advertise the. Okay, so it's mostly used for the advertisements. Okay, that makes sense. Interesting. Okay, so let's continue with your boy Yellow Flash. See what else he has to say, because he has a really good breakdown of this whole situation, including the relevance and context of the Vic Mignogna stuff.
This anime. In a world where different humanoid species exist and working girls are legal, there exists various brothels for each kind of species run by Suck You Girls. As each species has different opinions on how each working girl works for them, various brothel visitors have become reviewers, rating their experiences with various of these with various versions of these workers and posting them in the local tavern. The series largely centers on a human named Stunk and an elf named Zell and an angel named Kremvale. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but basically that's the plot. They go around and hook up with ladies and then post the reviews. I'm guessing they get paid to do it. I've never seen it. I thought it was
Hold on, now this is interesting. Okay, first of all, I want to address this. Jeremy Simmons. You also need to watch Vinland Saga. Oh, exactly. That's actually on my list ever since Mr. Medicare actually recommended it. Mr. Medicare actually recommended Vinland Saga very highly, so it's been on my list. It's just that I need to make more time to watch anime, I guess. This is really interesting. It's really interesting. So Titanic Tuna, Crunchyroll was always shady. They started out as pirates, but act as if they're morally righteous. They're just stealing from the industry. I had so were they like was Crunchyroll more like a Pirates Bay sort of thing? And they like were they some of the people who I don't know downloaded anime and then just streamed it on the service or something and then turned it into a pay-per-view sort of service? That's interesting. They started out as pirates and they were but they act as if they're morally righteous, which tends to be social justice go-to. Yeah, they're just stealing from the industry. Ask any industry members, and they'll tell you nothing changed. Interesting. Interesting. So I had no idea any of the history about Crunchyroll. I just thought it was a streaming service. As far as I know, does not stream in dub. That they just stream in original language only. But if they started out as a pirating service, people who just downloaded anime and just kind of had it there for their friends or something, I don't know. Now, it's an interesting origin. It's kind of like how Kennedy started off as a bootlegger or something, and then turned into the president. That's really interesting. Learning a lot on the stream chat. Learning a lot on the stream. Learning seems to go both ways. Fantastic. Always like to learn new things. Fantastic. All right, let's get back to League of the Flash. See what he has to say.
interesting and looked funny. But at the end of the day, I didn't really have a desire to look into it. It doesn't look like I'll be able to do that legally. You'll have to sail the 7 seas if you want to see this. I guess there's various ways you can stream it, but according to I watched a video by Raging Golden Eagle, it looks like they're all censored. So you might have to sail the high seas with fan subs if you really want to watch this show uncensored, which is a shame. You know, we're all adults. I think adults should be able to watch this if they want to. So I just find that kind of strange. It's strange that Funimation would even license this in the first place. It's almost like they didn't even know what they were getting. They were just going around and licensing anime that was trending or popular, because just by reading the description, you should be able to tell, hey, this might be a lewd anime. And it sure enough is. And Funimation they were actually streaming it. And I guess as of now, you can no longer stream the show. So that is over with. So here's the speculation. What people think is they started to dub it. In fact, I believe it actually was being dubbed. And the cast probably was uncomfortable. We don't want to dub. Why are we dubbing such a disrespectful to women anime, Sir Funimation? We should not be in the business of such risque, non-Puritan anime. And they canned it. Cast was probably going to come out and talk about why they didn't want to or something. I don't know. All we know is they were dubbing it, and all of a sudden it's gone. So given how people that work for this company act, they probably threw a big fit because of the depictions of women in it and got rid of it. Either way, they canceled it. So here's the report. Funimation has reportedly pulled anime series Interspecies.
That's the point I really like about all this, and I touched on this earlier, but Yellow Flash brought it back up in his video. What were they thinking? What were they really thinking this show was going to be when they had their voice actors in the studio making erotic moans and shouts into the microphone? They were really hearing all that and saying, well, that's just anime, I guess. Just your typical run-of-the-mill anime, your usual Segoys and stuff like that. Really? Really, Funimation? This is why I'm really skeptical on them saying, oh, we knew nothing. We knew nothing. We heard nothing. Saw nothing. We just thought it was a cool anime. Okay, sure. Sure. Let's see what else he has to say.
Species Reviewers, which is based on popular ecchi manga. The reason they pulled it, according to a message from their support staff, the series fell outside of their standards. We actually have the page right here. Up in the corner, you can actually see that it says Interspecies Reviewers. And sorry, but the page you're looking for doesn't exist. You can't find it anymore on the website. They've completely swept it under the rug. A user of the service actually contacted them and wanted to know what was going on. And here's, I guess, the official response. They haven't given one, actually. This is all there is. This is the returned email. Hello, Funimation user.
Let's see. Hack for Life. Thanks for the 2. The left is more Puritan than actual Puritans. I think that's pretty much true. I'm pretty sure that's pretty much true. As far as I've seen. It's to my understanding that people who are Puritans aren't actually outraged by the stuff that they try to purify. They are Puritans because they want power. They hold themselves up as the moral arbiter, as morally greater than thou, so they can be taken more seriously and that they can gain power over people. And the Puritans of old did that for that reason, and the Puritans of today are definitely doing that for that reason. Think of the kids. Give me power. I'll protect the children. That's what they want. This is why they hate these shows. They don't actually hate these shows. All they want to do is pretend they hate these shows so that people will bow to them and give them more power. Artist Kill the God, thanks for the 10. It's like GoFundMe, how they get paid. They do the work and people give them money for the reviews that they post. And we get to see some other species give their take on the aftermath. Okay, so you claim, so you haven't seen the show. Okay. That's basically the rundown of what I've heard about what the show is like. It's they just get paid for the work by other people. They do the work and people give them money for the reviews that they post. And we get to see some other species give their take on the aftermath. So that's interesting. That's an interesting premise for a show. That's very anime. It's very anime. That's essentially what I heard the show was. But that's really interesting. I didn't know that particular detail. I didn't know that's how they got paid. And apparently Yellow Flash didn't either. So that's really interesting tidbit to learn that they get paid by people who read the reviews. That I'm this is kind of like the Yelp review sort of dynamic. I like how absurd it is. Thank you, Artist Kill the God for the 10. Appreciate that. Let's see what else we have. What other nonsense has Funimation been pulling?
Thank you for contacting Funimation Support. We appreciate your business. After careful consideration, the series was removed from the service as it falls outside of our standards. We have the utmost respect for our creators, so rather than substantially alter the content, we felt taking it down was the most respectful choice. Please let us know if you have any other questions or concerns. Thank you, Funimation Support. And that's it. It seems like they're just trying to brush this under the rug. I don't know what they would say, though. What are they going to say here? We couldn't alter it enough?
I think it's enough. We have the Yellow Flash's video gives us a good picture of what happened with Funimation, and that it's obvious that at least in Funimation's case, they bow to the Twitter Puritans. And suddenly, after licensing this lewd anime and after dubbing this lewd anime, suddenly it wasn't part of their standards anymore. Suddenly, it just violated their sensibilities. Like I said, the voice actors screaming erotic moans into the microphone in their studios wasn't hint enough. They had to be told by the Twitter Puritans. Artist Kelly God, thanks for the 2. Spoilers. Krim is packing and there's also adventures. What do you mean by packing? Is he packing and does he carry around a gun? Or is he packing as in he's very good that these prostitutes actually look forward to his visits because he's packing? It could be either one. It could be either one. And what kind of adventures? They have to run through is part of the erotic play, like having a mock dungeon from the run through. That'd be interesting. uh, that's something to laugh about. Something that was interesting. I thought was pretty funny. How the Funimation licensed this very lewd anime, dubbed it, had their voice actors voice acted in studio, giving all these moans or whatever they do in this etchy series, and then suddenly say, "Oh, we had no idea that Interspecies Reviewers was about a bunch of prostitutes, a bunch of two guys hiring out some prostitutes and giving reviews or something." It's I don't see why they would have a problem with it. It's built on diversity. It's built on the idea of diversity. I guess because as a an evil white male as the main lead, and not an ugly grotesque thing that they can attach to being female or something. I don't know. But that was a funny situation. I thought you might enjoy that. Let's see here. We're not done yet. We're almost done. Almost done. But I think let's go ahead and see and test the waters. And what I wanted to do was watch a little bit of this interview with Ryan Johnson, the one we didn't cover the other day. I'm gonna cover the article. We didn't actually cover the actual interview itself. So if the stream suddenly goes down because YouTube has sniped us from the heavens, then have a good rest of the day. But if it doesn't, then we'll have a good laugh at Ryan Johnson's particular brand of nonsense. So let's check it out. Let's check it out. And here it is. I'll make sure we can share the audio. I would have to check that off. And let's give it a go. Let's give it a go. Just taking a little while to load up. Taking a little while to load up.
Hello, I'm Ryan Johnson, and I'm here in the studio with The Hollywood Reporter.
Thank you so much for being here. We're going to talk about Knives Out, which is a great movie. If there's anybody who happened to have not seen it, do you mind giving a quick look?
If you haven't seen it, stop watching.
I don't feel like there's anybody left, but just in case. So it's a murder mystery.
It's like it's like a murder mystery.
Though I have not seen Knives Out. I heard that Ryan Johnson put in a boy who is a far right Nazi, and that's meant to represent the people who hated The Last Jedi. So to give you any sense of how that movie goes. Artist Kelly God, thanks for the 5. Crim is packing as in Shaft. Okay, like he's too huge. Also, Stunk, the MC, and his crew are adventurers. They really good adventurers, and they're thirsty. Okay. Thank you for the clarification, Artist Scale to God. Thank you very much. And that's an interesting predicament to be in a show called Interspecies Reviewers and being too big for the job.
A whodunit in the Agatha Christie mode of murder mysteries, but it's an original film and it's modern day America.
You had the idea for this film kind of a while ago, is that right?
Yeah, it was about 10 years ago. I had like the very basic idea for it.
How long do you think it took from when you started writing until you had the shooting draft, I guess?
It was a very, very quick process. Essentially, I started writing in January, first draft in the summer. By September or so, I had a finished draft or a draft I felt comfortable sending out. We went to Daniel Craig.
What does that mean in Ryan Johnson's brain? A script he's comfortable sending out? That he had to make sure it ruined enough stuff. I don't know. I haven't seen the movie. The only thing I've seen of Ryan Johnson's is probably The Fly from Breaking Bad, and of course The Last Jedi, which was awful. The Fly wasn't too bad. The Fly was different, but it wasn't too different. It was more of a juxtaposition episode rather than a actual Breaking Bad episode. But The Last Jedi, I particularly know, is absolutely terrible. So, and he's putting his frustrations and anger and politics into Knives Out also, it seems. So, not a good sign. Not a good sign. Yeah, Lady Gravemaster, thanks for the 10. Third and fourth wave feminism has bred a blaring minority of people who have delusions of grandeur that infect everything they were never and will never support or be a part of, all for tweet cred. That's absolutely true. That's incredibly accurate. I think we mentioned this on a previous stream. Maybe it was yesterday's stream or something. But that's true. That's exactly what they do. They pretend to be fans. That's right. We're covering Gail Simone, and Gail Simone calls herself a geek. And that's what they do. That's what these SJWs NPCs do. They say that I'm a geek, I'm a nerd, I'm a Star Wars fan. They're not. They're not. They pretend to be. They are the fake geek girls. They are the fake Star Wars fans. But they say that they're geeks and they say that they're Star Wars fans, so they can infiltrate these franchises and that their opinions can be taken seriously. They can get some credibility in the fan group, which they do not deserve because they're not actual fans. But they use that false fandom they have. They use that false tag of being fans of these franchises to sneak their way into the fandoms, and then little by little, like multiplying bacteria, they will infect the fandom and then start influencing how the franchise continues on. They don't need a lot of people. They just need a very sizable vocal minority, and they can influence everything else. And they need a false moral high ground. Now, everyone is bigoted or racist or sexist or whatever. That's how they infect these franchises. So that's why they do that. They call themselves. It's exactly how viruses, either viruses or bacteria, they kind of disguise themselves as part of your biochemistry, and then they move into your body and they start infecting things. They are literally human viruses, human bacteria that are just out there ruining everything you love. And Star Wars, by the way, is not just a movie about space wizards intended for children. First of all, there's space monks, okay? There's space clerics. Second of all, fiction. I'm going to put out a video. I'm playing a video on this. I'm already collecting information, but fiction is not just disposable. It's not disposable. It's actually essential to the human psyche. It's essential to our culture. Okay? It's how our culture speaks to the future. So these movies, these franchises are important. And they said the people destroying these franchises, of course, say they're not important because they want to destroy these franchises. They want to destroy the culture and create a new one in their image. Because they say these franchises are unimportant because they know how important these cornerstones of American pop culture, the cornerstones of Western pop culture, actually are. Hex Harper, thanks for the $4.99. Ryan Johnson to Star Wars. I'm not going to hurt you. Come on, son. I'm not going to hurt you. I got a lollipop right here. I'm just going to smash in your freaking face. Smash your freaking brains out. Just a little bit. This is enough. I'm just smashing enough of your brains out of your skull so that you think The Last Jedi is good. No, that's too mean. It's too mean. But that's pretty accurate of what Ryan Johnson probably did to Star Wars. I'm not going to hurt you. He's probably more like the Joker to Harley Quinn in the what was it? The Suicide Squad. I'm going to hurt you really, really bad. He might have been outright with it. Let's see here. Hack for Life, thanks to the 2. Don't insult bacteria and viruses like that. Okay. I apologize to the bacteria and viruses of our world. Don't be too mad, Mr. Coronavirus. Don't be too mad, Corona-chan. No insult intended. Let's see here.
He said yes, and we were shooting the movie 6 weeks later.
Jesus.
Yeah,
That is a fast track.
Really, really, really quick. Yeah.
Is that normal for you to have sort of this idea gestating for 10 years ago or whatever, however long it was at that point, maybe 8 years, and then just getting it all out? Is that a kind of normal process for you as a writer?
The gestating part is, yeah, I have kind of like just a bucket of like, okay, what if this, what if that, and they're kind of floating around. The speed with which I wrote this, and definitely the speed with which we made it, is very unique. But it was thrilling. I kind of loved it. I want to
Yeah.
I want to try and write. I want to write faster. So I want to stick to this schedule if I can.
Did you ever find yourself stuck, or what, like, and how do you sort of, or what, whether it's this movie or any of your other films, like, how do you sort of get out of a tough patch whenever you're writing?
Yeah, for me, it's the because I'm a big outliner. I'm a big planner. Basically, I'll spend the first 80% of the process planning on paper and outlining, and sometimes I'll sketch out scene ideas and like dialogue and stuff. But mostly, I'm getting in my head, okay, it's this. These are the acts, these are the sequences, these are the scenes, and I get it all laid out so that when I actually sit down to type, it's kind of, I can kind of go off of that and it goes pretty quick. But that's where you get stuck, especially with something like this, because there's so many moving pieces.
Yeah.
But you just have to, yeah, it's just, anyone who writes knows.
So many moving pieces. Oh, what was he about to say? Someone who writes knows what?
It's like a puzzle, this movie.
It
that
is
you're
a bit like a
finishing up.
puzzle, yeah, and also a puzzle that needs to work, and or I wanted it to work beyond just being a puzzle. Not like it's like a big heavy movie or something, but I did want it to land as a movie. I wanted it to have an ending that felt satisfying beyond just, oh, that was a clever solution to the crime or something. So so that's kind of where the real math.
I haven't, like I said, I haven't seen this movie, but it sounds to me like he's trying to subvert your expectations by, instead of having a clever solution to the crimes, you're going to have a simple one or something. I could see Ryan Johnson doing that. I could see Ryan Johnson totally doing that. But we'll listen to a little bit more. We're not going to watch this whole thing, chat. So don't worry. We're not going to watch this whole thing. Watch a little bit more because I want to set up for something else. I'm going to set up for something else. Okay.
Goes is figuring out, with all the machinations of the plot, how you also have an arc that the audience is going to care about.
I'm curious also, how are you with actors, and if they have any like inclination to improv on? I mean, this one
Yeah.
is so particular. I imagine like the dialogue and things that were happening had to happen a certain way. But are you generally kind of open to that, or do you like for them to stick to what's on the page?
No, I live in, especially if an actor is good at it. I mean, it was because when you show up on set with something like this, it is kind of a jigsaw puzzle. So it's not like you can just go totally off book.
Yeah.
But that
Okay, I think we heard what how Ryan Johnson thinks, how he goes into writing things, and I want to do that. I want to do that because I wanted to go into one more thing for a closeout, and I saw this yesterday. I haven't read through it yet, but we have to remember that Ryan Johnson is the guy who just champions and touts how wonderfully great The Last Jedi was, how masterful it is. I think he even said something along the lines of, "We may hate it now, but in the future we'll come to appreciate that the movie is the best Star Wars movie ever written." He said something like that. So let's go ahead and see this. Bounding into comics, the 5 reasons why The Last Jedi was the worst Star Wars movie ever made. Warning, massive spoilers below. And after this, we'll go ahead and close out the stream. But let's go through this and enjoy what Bounding into Comics has put forth as the 5 main reasons why The Last Jedi is the worst Star Wars movie to ever have graced the screen. The Last Jedi has fans divided. Well, that's quite the understatement. The movie currently sits with a 56% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes and an even worse 4.9 Metacritic. Those are actually pretty good scores for that movie, I would say. In fact, negative reviews on Metacritic outnumber positive reviews by 116. I bet they do. I bet they do. I'm firmly in the camp that Star Wars: The Last Jedi was an absolute awful movie and the worst Star Wars film ever created. And here's 5 reasons why. Let's see. Let's see what we have here. Make sure we're still good to go. Okay. Ryan, so number 5 is General Hux. Let's see what they have to say about this. Ryan Johnson's The Last Jedi turns the imposing General Hux into a bumbling fool and idiot. He is no longer someone the Resistance should fear. Instead, he's now an incompetent nitwit who falls for the idiotic prank phone call. Who falls for the idiotic prank phone call. This is a drastic deviation from what we saw from the General Hux in The Force Awakens. Hux is a rival to Kylo Ren in Supreme Leader Snoke's eyes. He plays more of a General Moff Tarkin's role, who actually had the respect of not only Darth Vader, but the Emperor as well. Let's see here. Draskilius, Knives Out is a good film. I think you should check it out before you talk about it. It benefits from Johnson's subversions and takes a few turns that made sense. Yeah, that's what I wanted. I don't really want to talk about the Knives Out because I haven't seen it. I just make fun of Ryan how big of a blunder Ryan Johnson took with The Last Jedi. So that's why I didn't want to talk about the Knives Out. But as guessing, he's making fun of the fact that he loves putting in subversions and guessing how the movie turned. But yeah, talking about something, you should be honest about it. Let's see here. In fact, he stands up to Kylo Ren on multiple occasions. He even advises Snoke to destroy the Republic and is able to figure out what exactly Poe and Finn are up to and why they return to Jakku. Just watch these scenes. They are complete. They are in complete contrast to what we saw in The Last Jedi. The guy is truly fearsome and rivals rivals Ren's in Snoke's favor. Okay. In The Last Jedi, he actually accepts a hail from the enemy and is distracted by what I describe as a prank phone call. I'm sorry, General Hux is the man who immediately ordered his troops to fire upon Finn and Poe as they escaped the Star Destroyer. He would not accept the hail from the enemy or be so easily deceived. But this was just the beginning. Snoke even begins to refer to Hux as a pawn instead of his trusted general. What makes this even worse is the entire characterization defies the open text of the movie, which says the First Order have pushed resistance to extermination. Guess what? Hux was leading those forces. But Hux wasn't the only character Ryan Johnson ruined. You'll find out below. Here's the thing about Hollywood scripts, though. I've spoken to a guy who was kind of a Hollywood insider for a while, Matthew Kadish. And I'm to the belief that if Knives Out is good, it was in spite of Ryan Johnson and not because of him. If you know anything about for example, take the original development of Star Wars, how there were so many other creators besides George Lucas on the project, and had George Lucas remained in sole control, Star Wars might not have been as good as it turned out to be. But there were so many other people on that project that they combined their talents to make a great movie, to make a legendary movie series. And according to Matthew Kadish, there might be one name on the script, but there are tons and tons of people involved in rewriting, editing, all that stuff. I mean, he said that there might be. He's on Twitter, by the way, Matthew Kadish. He's on Twitter, and if you want to go to my First Edition channel, I think I did an interview with him there. But he explains all this, where there could be one name on that script, but it's gone through maybe dozens of different writers who have done alterations and fixes on these scripts. So The Last Jedi was Ryan Johnson's baby, so I'm pretty sure he had most of the control there. But when it comes to Knives Out, this being a normal film, it very could well be good despite it. Despite it. Okay. So let's see. Let's see here. Okay. One second here. 1 second. Let's see what we have. Let's see. 1 second here. We'll fix something real quick. Yeah, so they totally destroyed General Hux's character in there. He was supposed to be really good. He was really good in The Force Awakens. I wouldn't say really good. I mean, relatively speaking, he was good. Relatively speaking, he was all right. But other than that, it turned out to be terrible. It turned out to be really terrible. At least in the Last Jedi, it did. So he was kind of a threatening character. Hux was kind of a threatening character in The Force Awakens, and the Last Jedi, like Bounding into Comics just said, kind of ruined him. Dacios V, thanks for the 10. What do you think of good media that is diverse? Mad Max, diverse female cast, excellence, good African American comic, Watchmen show HBO into Spider-Verse. I like Mad Max. Fury Road was really good. I like that movie. I don't think it was woke at all. It just had really good characters. Excellence. I have not seen Excellence. Watchmen, I know, is really, really woke. So I decided not to watch that one. Let's see. Let's see here. Okay. So, but yeah, back to your question. What do you think of good media? Well, if it's good, it's good. The advertisements, I think, kind of pushed the wokeness of Mad Max, but it wasn't actually woke. It was just a good movie. So it was just really good movie and Furiosa was an interesting character. So that's what they get. I'd like to watch that movie. It's a really good movie. Because they focus on character and story rather than just normal stuff, rather than just normal woke nonsense. Yeah, it was really good. It's not. I mean, Mad Max Fury Road is not is not Citizen Kane or anything. It's good for what it wants to be. A Lady Gravemaster, thanks for the 5. When diversity is organic, it's amazing. And they beat you over the head with it and make it the focus, you lose something. Exactly. Because you kind of take the humanity out of it. You take the organic chemistry of these stories out of these movies when you start focusing less on story and character and more on your political agenda or something. So, thanks to the 5. All right, see. So the number 4, the next reason why the First Order versus the next reason why the Last Jedi was the worst Star Wars movie ever made is the First Order versus Resistance fleet. The entire movie is wrapped around the chase between the First Order and Resistance fleet. The First Order's fleet is too slow to keep up with the Resistance, so they must stay within range and wait for the Resistance fleet to run out of fuel. This might be the absolute dumbest thing I have ever heard, especially after what we saw in Rogue One and what we know of the technology in Star Wars. Rian Johnson must have forgotten that Star Wars has light speed. What was stopping Hux and the First Order from either calling in a separate fleet to head off the Resistance or spending one of their Star Destroyers through light speed to head them off? It's not like the tactic was unheard of. In fact, we saw it play out in Rogue One. Darth Vader's fleet arrived at Scarif to pin the rebellion down, squeezing them between the defensive fleet already stationed at Scarif and his own formidable fleet. It's a tactic Hux, Snoke, Kylo Ren, and the entire First Order didn't think of. It reeks of lack of research, or the very least a military advisor. This is Disney. They can afford to hire military strategists or two to make your battle more believable. They could, but they're too busy being brilliant. To make things actually brilliant. So let's take a look at the number 3. If nothing else, Bounding into Comics is at the very least spot on with the commentary here. Canto Bight subplot. Where to start here? The entire sequence was a complete abomination and should have never even been added to the final cut of the film. I am in full agreement there. I am in full agreement. Let's start at the beginning. Finn and Rose are somehow able to avoid detection of the First Order and jump to lightspeed. This is a slap in the face to the very first Star Wars film. As you can see, the Empire was able to track escape pods and even determine if there is life on board. How in the world did they not notice a shuttle jump to lightspeed from the fleet they are pursuing? At least in Empire Strikes Back, Han Solo avoids their sensors by landing on the Star Destroyer, and then has to exit with the garbage in order for them to not track him. He only fires up the engines after Star Destroyers jump to lightspeed. Instead, Finn and Rose just jump to lightspeed with no consequences. The entire idea of trying to get a person to hack the system is also a brand new idea to the Star Wars movies. Normally, this task is left to R2D2, or in the new trilogy, BB-8. It's confounding why they would need to go find some hacker in the first place. Exactly, that's a good point. I mean, BB-8 and R2D2 were really good at hacking things. It's kind of their job. That's kind of their whole reason to be. The Resistance should already have that hacker in BB-8. He was good enough to hotwire an ATST. He should have been good enough to break the First Order's defenses. Once they arrive, they are complete and bumbling fools, and don't even try to sneak in. They land on a giant public beach and are immediately threatened by the authorities. They apparently ignored these warnings. They apparently ignore these warnings off screen and pay the price. They then don't even get the guy they are supposed to. Instead, they settle for some random guy in a jail cell. When they get this, we then get scenes showing us how the rich live off the poor and how awful horse racing is. It just doesn't really have an emotional appeal because it's so ham-fisted. It wasn't authentic. So what you said earlier about the organic chemistry of the film being sacrificed for a political agenda, spot on there. Spot on. Number two. The number two reason why The Last Jedi was probably, or most definitely, the worst Star Wars movie ever created in the history of mankind is no understanding of the Force. Excellent point. Excellent point. Rian Johnson doesn't seem to understand the Force whatsoever. In fact, his explanations from Luke directly contradict what we see in the actual movie. But before we dive in, here's a refresher where we learned about the Force from the original trilogy. The Force is what gives the Jedi his power. It's an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds, it penetrates us, it binds the galaxy together, explains Obi-Wan Kenobi. Exactly. This is what the Force actually is. Okay? That's some deity that picks chosen ones and stuff. And picks dyads. It's just an energy field created by all living things. But Yoda also reveals that there is a dark side to the Force. He even calls the cave on Dagobah a domain of evil. But what we see from Luke when he is teaching Rey about the Force is that there is no light side or dark side. In fact, that's the first lesson he tries to teach her. He reiterates the Force is all around us, but he rejects the idea of light side and dark side, which was intrinsic to the original Star Wars trilogy. Yeah, because it was good guys versus bad guys. He even explains this by saying that's why the Jedi fell to the dark side because the light side and the dark side don't really exist. This goes against pretty much everything we know about the Force. There is a light side and a dark side, and they are opposed to each other. In fact, you could say the dark side is a warping of the Force. It's the use of fear, anger, and hate to control and manipulate the Force to do your own bidding. It's why we never see dark side users become one with the Force. They can't become one with the Force because they only know how to control the Force and manipulate it. It's why Darth Vader was so baffled when he struck down Obi-Wan Kenobi. Johnson also believes one can close oneself off to the Force. This doesn't make any sense. The Force is literally all around us and penetrates us and binds the galaxy together. You can't close yourself off from it. Very good point, Bowing into Comics. Very good point. Number one reason why this is the worst Star Wars movie ever made, judging by the title, I probably am in full agreement here as well. Luke Skywalker. They completely betrayed Luke Skywalker here. You saw my last video. You see exactly how badly they betrayed our beloved Luke. So number one, Luke Skywalker. This might be the worst strike against Rian Johnson. He fundamentally didn't understand the character of Luke Skywalker from the original trilogy. This is the young boy who chases his dreams. He might constantly fail, and even when he struggles, he finds a sense of hope. He might have lost all faith in Dagobah, but Yoda shows him to never give up. Even when finds himself succumbing to this anger in the final battle against Darth Vader in the Return of the Jedi, he finds he finds that sense of hope in himself. He tosses his lightsaber away and refuses to do the Emperor's bidding. He would rather die than fall to the dark side. Rian Johnson rejects this. Luke Skywalker no longer has hope in The Last Jedi. In fact, he even closed himself off from the Force. That's not the worst part. Luke explains to Rey he had a moment of weakness, ignited his lightsaber, ready to strike down Ben Solo. However, it quickly faded, but it was too late to stop Ben from bringing the Hutt down upon him. You would hear Luke try and explain to Ben to stop, and it was a misunderstanding. But that's it. Luke retreats to Ahch-To and becomes a hermit. This is not Luke Skywalker. This is not the man who would sacrifice his own life to redeem his father. He would have gone after Ben Solo. He would have tried to bring him back to the light side. Instead, Luke Skywalker believes Kylo Ren is a lost cause by the end of the film. This is the complete opposite of the character we saw go from a boy to a man in 3 movies in the late 70s and early 80s. Disney sacrificed epic storytelling for a soulless cash grab. Rian Johnson should not go anywhere near a Star Wars movie ever again. I am in full agreement. He fundamentally doesn't understand the Star Wars world. I think he even admits that. He just wanted to write a story that he wanted to write and put a popular logo on it. But I'm glad about it in the comics. We're not alone here, Chad. We're not the only ones who think, or we're not the only ones who know that The Last Jedi was not only a terrible movie, but an insult to Star Wars itself. And that's good. That's good. I'm glad there are some articles out there that have reason behind them, instead of trying to tap around the fact that The Last Jedi is a terrible movie and trying to defend it with themes and stuff that's not actually in the movie itself. That happens all the time. Oh, fantastic. Well, thank you everyone for joining me. I'm going to go ahead and close out the stream here. And I hope you had a wonderful time watching the stream, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And I will see you all next time.